All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the True Crime Talk Show brought to you by ThoughtRiot-Podcast. Yeah, look. It's really strange. I don't really understand what's going on YouTube right now, but welcome, everybody. It looks like they got their wires mixed up. And hang on, I'm going to share this out with everyone. Give me 1 second here.
It's working for me.
Okay, but look. Watch. Okay, go to your channel, right? This is today's. Today's the 29th, 9 p.m.
Okay.
So StreamYard, I think, has the wires mixed up. Anyways, we'll get into it. It is what it is. As Malia's talking on one of the topics, I will correct it and get the right thumbs on the right videos and get that all going. But welcome, everybody, to another episode of the True Crime Talk Show brought to you by ThoughtRiot-Podcast. My name's Brendan.
And I'm Malia. Welcome to the show.
Yes, welcome everybody. And I do see that there's a couple new documents in the Idaho 4 case, so we will open up with that. And while you read those, we'll do a little bit of an Idaho 4 sandwich where we'll do the new documents and then we'll talk on some of the topics that we're going to continue talking on. That'll give me a chance to fix the YouTube portion. Everything else seems okay, but the YouTube portion has their wires mixed up. So, and then get that information out there, get the updated video out there to everyone. So just hang tight. You want to pull those up and we'll get it going?
I mean, okay.
And for everybody else, you can find us on every major podcast platform. We are on everything, everywhere, all at once. I'm going to need that.
Yeah, I know, but aren't we going to put it on the screen?
Oh, yeah. Just search Thought Riot Podcast. We're on all social media platforms. Just search Thought Riot Podcast, and you'll be able to find us there everywhere, all at once.
All right, let's see what new documents there are. I was literally just checking before we hopped on here. It is so long now. The docket is so ridiculously long. All right. So it looks like we have... Oh, gosh. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Motion to allow defense investigators to review IGG, motion to unseal parts of the IGG, objection to state's motion to close hearings, order to augment the record, order sealing the stipulation to defense, motion to augment the record, response to notice of defendant's supplemental response to state's alibi demand, temporary order sealing exhibit, and notice of hearing.
Pick one and hit it.
All right, so we're going to start with the first one. How are you gonna... Okay. Are you gonna like scroll when I need you to scroll? Okay. Because I'm gonna have to pull this up on my computer to be able to read it, probably.
So hang on. Be done pretty quick here.
Okay. I am not at all in the right case right now. Jeez. Okay. So This was obviously filed on the 26th, as it said on the docket earlier. Motion to allow defense investigators to review IGG materials comes now. Bryan C. Kohberger, by and through his attorneys of record, and hereby moves this court to allow defense investigators to review IGG investigative genetic genealogy materials. This motion is made to protect Mr. Kohberger's state and federal constitutional rights, including the 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution, as well as Article 1, Section 13 of the Idaho Constitution. This court previously entered an order allowing specific experts access to review to the protected IGG materials. At the time of the order, the defense team requested that its investigators also... Okay, you need to scroll down. Yep, all the way. Yep. Investigators also be allowed to review the protected IGG materials. The court denied defense investigator access, but did indicate that it would be willing to reconsider the request. The Constitution guarantees criminal defendants a meaningful opportunity to present a complete defense. Crane v. Kentucky. Yeah, there's a bunch of, numbers and letters and things. 1986. This right is safeguarded in part by constitutionally guaranteed access to evidence. California versus Trombetta, which was in 1984. Mr. Kohberger is requesting that the court reconsider its decision and allow the defense team investigators to review the protected IGG materials. A hearing on this matter is requested to explain why the current order needs to be revised. The hearing does not need to be sealed and is expected to take approximately 15 minutes. Dated 4/26, and it is signed by Massuth or Massuth. I'm not 100% sure how to say her name.
Okay, so we need to go back here. And then
Interesting. I figured this was coming. You have the next one pulled up? Okay, motion to unseal parts of the IGG materials. Comes now Bryan C. Kohberger, by and through his attorneys of record, and hereby moves this court to unseal the IGG materials sealed by this court's order signed on 12/29/23, except for the individuals on the family tree or found via the IGG, on the grounds that this information should be made public and does not meet the requirements for sealing under ICAR 32. This court previously entered an order allowing specific members of the defense team, including specific experts, access to review the IGG materials is ordered disclosed. Wait. Access to review the IGG materials it ordered disclosed. The court has indicated during hearings its concern was the privacy of individuals on the family tree. The defense shares that concern and takes no issue with it. Can you scroll down? The defense does object to the sealing of the rest of the information that has been disclosed. There is simply no legitimate reason that the way the IGG procedures in the case took place should be shielded from the public. This court provided no authority for sealing those materials. Most materials have been sealed in this case to protect the right to a fair trial. There is simply nothing unfairly prejudicial about the way in which IGG was carried about the state and its associates in this case. Oh my gosh. What does that mean? In point of fact, the way in which IGG occurred in this case has been made public in other cases. See State v. Hartman, the indigenous and dystopian technique police used to hunt the Golden State Killer suspect, Washington Post, April 28th, 2018, and they give a link. Aspects of the IGG investigation in this case have already been leaked. Okay, yes, they have been leaked. Heather Tal Murphy, how police actually cracked the Idaho killing case. Oh, they're showing where it was leaked. January 10th, 2023, and give a link. Well, we can pull that up here in a minute. This court's order is being abused by the state. Oh, scroll down, Brendan. This court's, yep. This court's order is being abused by the state and the FBI to hide how IgG was used in this case, because what the FBI did violated its own rules and the rights of privacy genetic genealogy companies have promised. Calling them out. Not only is there no authority to protect the FBI and the state in this matter, this refusal to permit Mr. Kohberger to expose this to the public is a clear violation of his right to a public trial. See Weaver v. Massachusetts in 2017, Waller v. Georgia 1984. Sealing of motion to suppress to protect privacy of witnesses was error, requiring remand for new public hearing. State v. Ingram 2013. U.S. Constitution Amendment 6 something. Yeah, I don't know all of these. There's another case cited there. A hearing on this matter is requested if necessary. This hearing does not need to be sealed and is expected to take approximately 30 minutes. Signed, Ancy Taylor on April 26th. That is a bombshell. Like, holy cow. As soon as I saw the title for that a minute ago when we were reading through them, I was like, oh, what is this? You know, like I couldn't wait to read this one. I just knew it was going to be good, but I didn't know it was going to be that good. They are straight up calling out the state and the FBI and the court. All three of them.
Yeah, for hiding the DNA.
For hiding it.
Yeah.
And that the FBI violated their own rules when conducting the IgG investigation. They don't say how, but I love that they're ending every motion right now, you guys, by saying this hearing does not need to be sealed. Now, I will say this is clearly, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but this is clearly a tactic. Because Bill Thompson requested the hearings to be closed, they are now passive aggressively putting it in their motions. This hearing does not need to be sealed. Which, I mean, you could also call it standard. I just feel like the way it's being written now is kind of a stab. And it's kind of like, yeah, we don't need to hide anything. You know, we got the goods. We can put it all out there kind of thing. And I'm wondering if after that last hearing where the information came out that Bryan Kohberger did not stalk one of the victims, if Ann Taylor and her team saw how that is kind of balancing the scales. So, you know, in the Delphi case, there's this big argument about that Frank's memorandum that was put out. And one of the arguments for the memorandum being okay is the fact that when the state puts out their PCA, their probable cause affidavit, it gives the state's theory on the case, which immediately biases the public. So getting the defense's theory of the case out there helps balance that. I wonder if they realize, like, oh, if we let some information out there, we can balance out this bias.
Yeah.
That's going on in the public.
Absolutely. Yep. I've been listening to you the whole time and I heard everything you were saying. We're good. We're caught up. Hopefully everyone who was on the wrong thumb will be able to figure out which one. We shared it everywhere. So, you know, and I see that number coming over here. I just had to delete the other one. I just didn't want to take time to share this link in the other one. But anyways, I think everything's good to go. So I am here and present. But yeah, I agree. I think that's a huge deal. And I think it's a huge deal too, because again, you know how many times we've seen this happen in this case where the general consensus of the true crime community feels this one way, right? And has been talking about it for a long time. We all know that court takes forever, right? But we're seeing a lot of these same arguments that people have been talking about for a very long time, way before we were a show focused on true crime specifically. There's been content creators all over the place that have been covering this from the very beginning, that have been saying these same things that once, you know, Bryan Kohberger became on the radar. So yeah, I think it's a big deal. Now, my one question is, because we always got to play the other side of the coin here, is are we seeing this because they truly believe that these things are going on within the case? Or are we seeing this because the defense is trying to intentionally win over some of the public? both of those arguments and angles are great angles, in my opinion.
They're valid
Right.
possibilities.
It's just it just depends on what their goal is. Is their goal really to call them out, or is their goal to try and get the public to release from the mainstream media narrative and come over to, or become more willing to listen to other possibilities?
Well, you saw, okay, here's how the tide started to turn in the Delphi case. In the beginning, everyone thought Richard Allen was guilty, dude. Literally everybody, including myself. The moment they arrested him and all that information came out, I was like, yeah, he seems guilty. Then the PCA came out and everybody's like, well, wait a minute. That's not great, but I still think he did it. And then the Franks memo came out and everyone was like, this is ridiculous. What are they even talking about? This is absurd. And then as more information started trickling, mainstream media and the whole public's minds, like the tides started to turn.
Yeah.
Where people are like, something is going on here, you know?
Yeah.
Something is not right. There's clearly something here with this whole Odinist thing. There's clearly something here where things have been hidden. So I think I'm wondering, are they trying to have that kind of moment? I think the stalking thing, them coming, like Bill Thompson saying, and that was on Bill Thompson. That wasn't even the defense putting that out there, which is insane. Like, he can't even blame that on the defense. That was all him. That, I think, actually made some people, it poked some holes.
Yeah.
Even for people who are like diehard guilters, it pokes some holes.
Yeah.
But I think as more comes out, it may blow that wide open. We'll see. We'll see how this goes.
Right.
I need to see more to believe them, obviously. I don't believe them just because they put this motion out. Do I think that they can lie straight up? No. They can't just lie. But lawyers twist things. They manipulate things, okay? They bend rules. They you know,
well, they bend social perception. I think
they bend perception. That is a way better word for it, for sure. I agree. But I wanted to pull up this article that it is referencing, saying that some of the IGG information has already leaked, because it's interesting. Have you guys seen this article? Can you share the article on the screen, please?
Yeah, which article? The one that you were just...
Yeah, that one.
This one here? Okay.
Share that. I don't know if that'll make it pop up. I think you need, because the thing wasn't in the middle. Okay. So how police, and this is Slate, slate.com. Have you guys seen this article? Because honestly, I'm not 100% sure if I have. Like, the picture looks kind of familiar, but I'm not quite sure. How police actually cracked the Idaho killing case. Investigators used forensic genealogy to zero in on suspect Bryan Kohberger, but they aren't saying so. And it's written by Heather Tall Murphy on January 10th, 2023 at 6:19 p.m. So I think it's interesting. They didn't share Howard Blum's article. They shared this. Why? What is in this that leaked information? So let's see. There's the first paragraph is it's basically just a summary of the case, of what happened.
Okay.
Early on in the investigation, the Moscow Police Department became interested in a white Hyundai Elantra that surveillance footage had captured near the house that morning. They compiled lists of the cars, white Hyundai Elantras spanning from 2011 to 2016. Is that completely accurate in the beginning? That were registered, that it was that they compiled lists from 2011 to 2016. Like, you're missing that whole part where they changed the year.
Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. I don't know if that argument will be brought up in court, though, because I could see that giving the perception
a little bit
nitpicky,
really
quick. Yeah, it's really easy to make that seem petty. But if they have some kind of supporting evidence as to why it's not a petty argument, and why that means that we should be questioning whether that expert statement is valid or not, then, you know, maybe it will get brought up. I just don't know. And that's part of the reason why we come on here and say that, look, we don't want to be associated with pro burgers, Brian, people who are out there on the internet that are, and it's not that we don't want to be associated. That's just not our take. Okay. So we know that we don't have the full picture here, right? We know that we're probably seeing 10% out of 100% of the entire picture, and that's just not enough to commit one way or the other. And this is some of the details that we expect to see over time. Like, why did they change it? Are we going to find out why they did change it? Or are we going to find out why they assumed that it was this year in the beginning? Are we going to find out, you know, any of these details? And those things matter. Those matter, in my opinion, when I'm trying to determine whether I'm feeling like somebody is innocent or guilty, or I'm feeling like this has been a fair investigation or not, or I'm feeling like the prosecution should be trusted in this situation. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it just goes on to say that the PCA was released. It revealed techniques used to identify Kohberger, and it says, and yet it would be another month before police arrested Kohberger and charged him with the murders. All while investigators would keep pleading for more tips about Elantras, but not showing us a picture of the real Elantra. That's because it was not Kohberger's Elantra that had elevated him to a priority person of interest. Rather, according to a law enforcement source familiar with the investigation with whom I spoke, a key reason police focused on Kohberger as a likely suspect has to do with something that is never mentioned in the 18-page affidavit: forensic genealogy. It was only after investigators utilized a technique reliant on genealogy databases to determine who'd left DNA on a tan leather knife sheath that police requested a search warrant for Kohberger's phone records. According to this source, up until that point, in late December, he hadn't stood out among all the other Elantra owners. Interesting. The source said, something that is reinforced by a close, informed reading of the affidavit. Scroll down. This is really interesting. The precise way forensic genealogy helped investigators zero in on Kohberger hasn't been previously reported. This is one of the most high-profile cases in which this relatively new, ethically contentious method has been used so soon after a crime has been committed, and it will likely influence how law enforcement approaches it going forward. Though multiple news outlets, including CNN and ABC News, reported that forensic genealogy helped with the case, none has explained how it was used or why it did not appear in the affidavit. And that's how, and why matters. For one thing, it shows that a method known mostly for solving cold cases can apply to ones that are still hot. That may increase demand for an emerging field that was already experiencing a boom. Can you scroll down? I think you did not scroll down far enough at all. Yeah. The use of forensic genealogy also underlines that the current storyline about how police identified their suspect, which some are suggesting is a model, is missing pivotal details. According to numerous genetic genealogists, the case embodies an emerging trend of leaving out any mention of forensic genealogy from court documents and press conferences. Exactly. The Idaho affidavit's thoughtful omission of any reference to genealogy, as forensic DNA analysis Tiffany Roy put it, has reignited a heated debate among investigative genealogists, lawyers, detectives, and other forensic experts about the wisdom of this strategy. Scroll down. People involved in his arrest won't be weighing in anytime soon. There's a gag order. His defense team did not respond for a request for comment. Hyundai Elantras are one of the best-selling compact cars in America, and white is the most common color.
Yeah, and that's something we've talked about extensively, that literally the most common car in the U.S. right now are white sedans. Yep. There are more of them.
And Kohberger's the most average-looking person you could even pick.
Agree. Totally agree.
And I almost wonder if that's sometimes why people like go down that rabbit hole with him being in the CIA or like, some kind of undercover agent, because he's like, that's what they look like. The most average people you can look like.
Based off of looks. I think that idea and concept legitimately holds water.
You don't think it's subconscious though? The way he looks is like a subconscious reason why people think that sometimes?
I don't. And the reason being is because he's the most average looking person, meaning he is the most relatable to people out there. So I don't think that would be it. I think that our society is trained to target people that are not as common, in my opinion. In general, just in general, without getting political, without getting on any of the inflammatory topics that are out there that create separation in our society. I just believe that we tend to align ourselves with people that are the most common looking person in a certain, I just want to be careful how I'm wording it, because it's such a toxic topic in general. But anyway.
So it talks about how they received a bunch of tips. The agency had a list of 22,000 white Elantras by December 27th. One of the ways the investigators whittled down the vehicle's owners was by looking for associated mobile phones that pinged cell towers near the crime scene around the time of the murder. Kohberger failed to stand out in that way, according to the affidavit. Exactly. A query of the 8458 phone in this, it's quoting the affidavit. It showed that he wasn't there between 3 and 5 a.m. Scroll down.
Have you already read this?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
What this likely meant was there was no immediate reason to prioritize Kohberger over other Elantra owners. December 23rd, 3 weeks after Kohberger's Elantra first made the list, Payne applied for a search warrant for records of Kohberger's phone activity between November 12th and 14th. So they got a specific search warrant for his phone before his arrest on December 23rd. So that's 7 days before he was arrested. A whole week.
Yeah.
The results helped convince Payne that Kohberger was the Elantra owner he was looking for after all. The route of travel of the 8458 phone during, so it's quoting the PCA again, talking about his route, and that between 247 and 448, he was trying to conceal his location by, it is implied he turned it off or did something to make it not connect to a tower. So the question is, what?
You just want to be careful because
that's a quote from the PCA affidavit.
Yeah, I understand that. But in the PCA, it says in 2 different spots that his phone was not communicating with the network. It doesn't imply that he did something that made his phone.
Is consistent with Kohberger attempting to conceal his location during the quadruple homicide.
Yeah, but that's right after it talks about why they believe that. So in the PCA, it says that, in their experience, criminals will turn off their phone when they're conducting a crime. So in my opinion, it's written like for people to make that connection, but it's also talked about in the other not the other PCA, but the other statement from the other officer,
Brett Blaker.
Yeah, Blaker. that his phone was not communicating with the network, and they wouldn't have known that at the time of this PCA being written because they didn't have his phone in their custody. You know what I mean?
Right. They can't know that he turned it off.
Right.
Yeah, they're heavily implying that he did, though, even though they don't know. They don't know. So the question is, what happened shortly before Christmas that refocused Payne's attention on this particular Elantra owner? The answer, according to the source familiar with the investigation, is partly that the officer got back the results from a forensic genealogy team. As court documents state, during his exploration of the house, Payne found a leather knife sheath stamped with Marine Corps Eagle containing a single source of male DNA on its button snap. Had their suspect been arrested for or convicted of a felony in one of the states that are aggressive about collecting DNA, officials might have found him by searching CODIS. But Kohberger's most notable previous interaction with police occurred this past fall when he applied for an internship to work for the Pullman Police Department. And so in the end, investigators would turn to an alternative way of identifying DNA, which rose to prominence following the 2018 arrest of Joseph James D'Angelo, the Golden State Killer. After decades of dead ends, investigators triangulated the identity of the mystery man. Okay, so yeah, we know that was the watershed case that led to IGG being used. So it talks about, law enforcement using this technique in many other cases. This is not something police labs can do because genealogists rely on a different, essentially far more informative type of DNA analysis. And she quotes Samantha Blatt, a biological anthropologist at Idaho State University, who's also worked on forensic genealogy cases in Idaho. ISP has a contract with Othram. Now let's see. Can you scroll down? I'm skimming through some of this.
Yeah, it seems like kind of a long article.
It is. I wanted to see if there was anything genuinely leaked.
Okay. I mean, would we even know that?
I mean,
At
this
this
is
moment?
right here. Yeah, because they would specifically state it about the case. But these are all statements about the process that is used in all genealogies. So that's why I'm skipping through it. They then began the process of building an enormous family tree. We know this. The fact that Kohberger lived 10 miles from the crime scene would have helped him stand out. So too would the fact that he owned a white Elantra. Still, even after pulling the phone records, the team had no way to be certain Kohberger's DNA would match the knife sheath DNA. A genetic genealogy lead is just a hypothesis after all. A final step typically involves conducting surveillance on the suspect and then collecting something they've discarded, which they claim they got trash of his father. On December 27th, agents collected the trash. Okay. It belonged to his dad. Soon after, Kohberger appeared in front of a judge. But okay, so some suggested that the absence of any reference to IgG meant that it had not been utilized, but there's another explanation. Forensic genealogy leaders at the FBI and beyond have directed police departments to omit all references to the technique. Numerous people involved in these investigations told me. The only reason it would show up in a probable cause document or search warrant these days is if a police department rejected their guidance. As to whether keeping it out of court documents is a problem, two primary camps have emerged over the past few days. So the first camp is saying leaving it out is offensive, that they need to do it. And why hide it?
Just a reminder, you guys, and I didn't see anything in the chat. I just want to make sure I'm reminding everybody on every video that the goal of our show is a family-friendly type show. If we want to have one that's more adult or something like that, we got to do that separately. So we expect the chat to also represent themselves the same. An argument doesn't have to be, any argument can be made which would fit into that category. So let's do our best to keep it that way so that we don't have to remove anyone, please.
Yes. So, and it says the second camp is people who say people need to chill out because an affidavit of probable cause is supposed to explain why police someone is their suspect, not how they arrived at that conclusion. You don't typically include anonymous tips or internet searches in the document. This isn't that different, they insist, given that you would never use a genetic genealogy lead to arrest somebody, only to take the next step and collect DNA from them to compare with a crime scene sample. I disagree. I think it should absolutely be included in discovery and in the PCA. Absolutely. One strange consequence of the current policy is that even Kohberger's relatives may never know their DNA profiles contributed to his arrest. That's because most genealogists' approach is to not tell them. And if they are distant cousins, they might not even recognize his name. Several genealogists I talked to made the case that people would rather not know they are related to suspected killers and R-wordists. That's really... that's it. All of these are the sorts of issues Kohberger had planned to spend the next few years studying. WSU even offers a course examining the implications of forensic genealogy. It's worth remembering that a jury could find Kohberger to be innocent. Regardless, it's unlikely he'll enter a classroom soon. Okay, well, that was interesting. So I guess January 10th of 2023 was very early on for all of this to be out. That's like what? How many days after his arrest? 11 days after his arrest, this was out?
Yeah. I get that.
Had you read this? Did you know this article was out there?
Yeah, I knew this article was out there just because quite a few content creators have talked specifically about it. And I only remember that not because I watched all the videos on it, but I remember that picture. Literally, this picture
I thought
was
I
kind of a
remembered the
big
picture.
deal for a while. So, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting, but here's the thing. This is how I look at it. Why we're going a year back to argue whether something should have been out or not. Okay, I think that argument just needs to be left at the door, right? It is what it is, and we need to figure out the standards or practices of what they are going to or what they're going to expect about the information that can and or will be brought up in court. And like within this, who cares if it was talked about way back then? It's already been talked about. So are we going to continue talking about it, or is the judge going to not allow this topic and argument in court? You know, and that's what I'm meaning. Like, why does it matter now that it was out that early?
Well,
is what I'm saying.
It
doesn't. Trick question. It doesn't.
I mean, they're showing that to as part of their argument to unseal this information.
Yeah.
It is part of their argument to put it out there in the public.
Right. I get you. I understand that. But yeah, it's just going to be determinate based on that.
Look,
is all I'm saying.
Things being public, okay, public hearings are a right to a defendant and the public, not only because we just have that right and we're allowed to be involved in our justice system, but also it protects the defendant if there's corruption. And I think that's what this motion to unseal parts of the IGG materials is calling out. I think that's partly what they're trying to get the message across, is that this investigative process was done against their own rules. Like, they did it in a way that's shady and not right, and we want
I mean, they're the ones who leaked it.
It's being hidden intentionally by everyone involved, and it needs to be shown to the public. There's no reason to have it hidden.
I agree with you.
Now, this whole selectiveness of allowing some things to be out and other things not, it bothers me. Yeah,
and that's what I personally feel like should be left at the door at this point. Okay, it doesn't matter. Look, I don't think there's anyone out there, whether you think that Bryan Kohberger is guilty or whether you think that Bryan Kohberger is innocent. Okay, there has been a substantial campaign to paint who he is as a person, to make him look guilty. I don't think that's arguable. I really don't.
I don't either.
And you just look back at the last year and a half, 2 years of mainstream media coverage on this case, and hearing things like, and I'm not going to give names because I never want to bad mouth anyone, but saying things like, well, look at his eyes. Can't you see? Like, you can tell he's a killer. Things like that. Come on, get out of here,
like,
man.
Oh, he's so creepy. I wouldn't want to be in the same room as him.
Right. Yeah. And then saying things like, oh, well, okay, there's no way it could be anyone else because his DNA is there at the crime scene. Yeah, but explain what kind of DNA it is and how easily it's passed from person to person, and how easily a random person's trace DNA sample could be found on any crime scene. You know what I mean? So, like, those details, in my opinion, don't matter. It just needs to come down to the fact and argue the point that we need to know what can be argued about and what can't, what needs to remain a secret or you know, covered, and what doesn't. And that gives the prosecution and the defense the ability to argue from that point. I mean, look, what I think is going to end up happening here is I think you're going to see the prosecution manipulate this document to make it seem like the defense. I shouldn't give anybody ideas. To make it seem like the defense is arguing to release all the names that are connected to the DNA and IGG information. That's my bet. So, you know, mark it on your calendars. That's where I'm placing my bet.
Okay, I'm betting against you.
The prosecution is going to come out and say that We can't release that. The defense is just trying to release all the names of all the people that drew a connection to Bryan Kohberger.
Why would you? What do you mean?
Because
What
it's a
people?
good
Are you
argument.
talking about his family?
Yep.
Yeah, but it specifically says they want to unseal everything but that. They want that specific thing to remain sealed.
I understand that, and that's why I think it's going to be targeted.
But how? I mean, I don't see how that. I don't know.
So, okay, so there's always an argument for a lack of information too, okay? So when you look at something and you're trying to determine what 100 pieces are in a box, okay? You can look at how many are there in that box and find out how many there are, but you can also gain a lot of information by finding out how many are not there, right? So you can take an argument and use that argument to twist the narrative and say, hey, I understand they're saying that they don't want these people to be identified. However, they want all information that will lead to these people being identified. You're just asking to keep the names off. That's just the direction I think they're going to go, because I don't think the prosecution wants this information out. It's kind of an aimless argument, to be honest, but I do think that's what's going to end up happening.
So you think that Bill Thompson's going to say releasing this information puts those people at risk of being identified?
Yes, because the court has already made their stance on the importance of keeping that secret.
Okay.
So you're not creating a new argument. You're basically, you know, borrowing a previous argument that you already know where the judge stands on.
I find it really interesting that they call out the court for keeping it a secret, saying the FBI violated its own rules and rights of privacy. Genetic genealogy companies have promised, meaning that whole argument that Vargas had in her declaration and testimony about how the FBI violates the rules and policies of companies and goes into a back end or makes a user, a consumer profile to search the database as not law enforcement, like a civilian would, how they do that and how it's against the rules and it's not right. But you know, one of the best people to look at for that is Bicca Barlow too. Like, she is fighting a good fight against things like this right now. And that they still have her on as an expert.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I think Leah Larkin mentioned it too. Honestly, I think all three of them did. I think Vargas just went harder into that specific topic.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, and I hope that they oblige making this public. I hope that we can get more information out there.
I don't agree.
You don't think this should be made public?
No, I think that it should. Okay. Not everything. No.
Well, no, not everything. Everything but the names of his family.
So
or anything that could be identified.
That's why if I was the defense, I would have reworded this. Okay, I would have changed it, and I would have sought the process, not the personal information on Bryan Kohberger. So
I think that's what they're arguing.
Yeah, that's not how it comes off, though. That is not how it comes off, saying, hey, you know, we need to release the information to understand your process. It doesn't have to include any work from Bryan Kohberger, but we need to understand the steps that you made and why you made them, the decisions you made and why you made them in this situation. Take everything related to Bryan Kohberger out of it and explain why you went this direction and how it works and why it's a repeatable science that can be depended on. Yeah, I think that would have been
the thing is that they can take away the identities of the people's, like their names and everything, but they have to show those links. Like, there is no way to show this process without showing like the tree with just blacked out names.
Yeah, there is.
No, that is the process. The tree is the process of IgG.
I mean, I don't agree that's the end result.
No, it's as they're making these connections.
Right.
Building the tree is the process.
But I don't want to get too far on this because I don't feel like this is going to help any of this topic. But when you're talking about laying out the process, what you're talking about is, okay, so we start with this information here. And since we have this information, we search for one of 3 categories. We search for this, this, and this. Okay. Once we have the outcome of those 3 categories, we take each of those and we search for these 3 more categories, this, this, and this, 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 and this, 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 and this, right? So we now have 9 different categories that we're going to be looking into. Once we have these 9 categories, we start drawing connection. You know what I mean? Like, that is the process without giving any private information. I want to know that, because I think the argument the defense is making right now is the defense is saying, you guys connected. You guys worked backwards on the DNA. I don't know if you had Bryan Kohberger's DNA there. If you did, why weren't all these other DNA samples processed in the same manner and with the same regard that Bryan Kohberger's was? It feels like you selected Bryan Kohberger's and then made it fit the narrative of the crime. Okay. I think that's a really good argument the defense could make. And I don't think they need any personal information to do that. I think they need to understand the process. And then that gives you the argument and the ability to say, okay, now that we understand the process, though, in a private hearing, you know, just between the defense and the prosecution, let's lay over, you know, like those drawing pieces of paper, whatever, where you can lay it over and then all of a sudden, you know, it all fits. Okay, well, now let's lay that personal information over onto your process and see if it actually fits, see if it's replicatable. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, I'm not an attorney or anything. I just think that that would be a good argument in this case, because I think that I don't think they're going to get traction here. I just don't. I think that Idaho as a state really appreciates their personal information. And I don't see the judge giving in where there is a 1% risk to allow any connection by the true crime community. Because let's be real here. If this information comes out and it doesn't include any names, but includes information about how they drew the connections, like, hey, you know, let's just say Bryan Kohberger lived in this area from 1995 to 1998, and we know that there's a phone number that's associated with this, that's also associated with this family member. Yeah, when they're building the IGG, that's what they're doing, is they're using Google searches and everything. So a family member is also associated with that phone number here, and we were able to draw this connection. Then we were able to backtrack and verify, and like,
I see what you're saying, and yes, that is something that is used. However,
that would allow the true crime community to fill those gaps of who it is.
I agree. They shouldn't do that. I agree. That's a good point, and I agree they should not do that. What I think they're asking for to be exposed here, okay, is, and I saw somebody talk about electroferrograph charts in the comments. That's not what will be included in any of this. Not with IGG specifically. Remember, guys, this is building a family tree. This is not matching alleles to alleles. This is not electropherogram charts. What I think they're asking to be revealed here, basically, is the FBI's and whoever did this, okay, whoever started this process and finished it, whatever, their process of what system they used, and the way they could show this. Okay, they don't. I think what we're going to see in this case, just from all the information I've gathered, is we're going to see that they put Bryan Kohberger's DNA, okay, his what is it called, his profile, into a database, and there was no match. They didn't find anything but very distant people. And then I think we're going to see that they logged into a consumer account in the back end, basically, not using the database they were supposed to use. And they found either his own, the highest centimorgan, okay, match is going to be his own, or a very close relative. And I think that is the process they're wanting to be exposed, that they did something that was against the policy, that was not okay, that is they're not supposed to do. And they found nothing the first time. And then the second time they found something when they used the consumer database, and they are just going to show that there was a high centimorgan match.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you.
And that's how they got to Kohberger.
I hear you. I don't.
This is the fastest
agree.
IGG that's ever happened, like ever.
I hear you. That is not going to support the argument that he was never there. That if they argue that, that's still going to leave enough doubt in the jurors' heads that, okay, well, regardless how they got that DNA, regardless if they made a connection that they shouldn't have made, that DNA is his. What is that? Leaves open an argument for the prosecution to come in and say, you know what? Okay, with how much of a connection this was, let's throw that one out, and then we'll just base it off the other 8 that match. Okay, and pretending it's 10 or something, right? That they'll still be able to say, fine, you know, we'll give you that. Now explain why it's there. That's not going to help them. Well, I think they're going to go the direction that is going to say he wasn't there, and however that DNA was matched, found, and used happened to be there by chance through these through hand-to-hand or you know, how unreliable the DNA is that got there. By using that argument, dude, that argument's going to make him look guilty. That's
okay, I'm not
talking.
I never said that was going to be their argument. I said that's the process they're trying to uncover. That is not the argument I think they're using in court to make it draw question to how his DNA got there, or if it's his, or if it was planted. That is completely separate from the process that I think they're trying to expose here, in that the FBI did something wrong and that shouldn't have been done. But anyway, I don't think they're going to have all these Google searches. I don't think they're going to use all, like, because yes, IGG, if there's not the only way they use what you're talking about, where they're using obituaries and phone numbers and all that, is if they don't have a close match of centimorgans. If that centimorgan hit is high, then they don't do any of that. They will go talk to that person maybe and get a sample, or I mean, that is the lead. Like if they get, oh, this person is very closely related to them, like very closely, and there's a name in there, an actual physical name, they will then go double check that and see if it's accurate. And if it is, then that's their guy.
Oh gosh, I don't know. That's not the video that we watched. The video that we watched specifically has Bicca Barlow saying that they use, you know, Google search.
They do.
And phone. Okay, you just said they won't prioritize that. But based off what we saw in that video, it sure sounds like they prioritize that the same way as they do any other information. No. I think that they're just gathering an accumulation of information, and they don't prioritize one over the other.
They may gather more intel basically for good measure, but if they have a high centimorgan match, that's their guy. Vargas said that she has solved a case literally in like 5 minutes.
Okay, yeah, I got you. Search information to draw connections has nothing to do with the centimorgan match.
That's how IGG is done. And if they don't have that, then they have to rely on those Google searches.
Okay.
To help find matches, especially
I just don't have any information to pull it up, so I personally don't want to argue
you have to remember that IGG has mostly been used in cold cases that are very old, where they're not going to have a bunch of people's people that are of close relation in the database for these old victims or killers, like that they have to investigate.
Yeah, I get you. You're just mixing two things. You're mixing science as centimorgans with online open source data. Those two things aren't the same. So they're both going to be equally true. You're trying to make it seem like you're replacing one with centimorgans. Listen, I'm not arguing centimorgans. I think any of that science, yes, it is already going to be there. But the way that they find those people is a mixture of already uploaded data on there. And if that data is not on there, then they are going to use the search results, details, connections, and online information to then go from there. Okay.
That's what I just said.
Okay.
What?
That's not what I heard. You were like, they're not going to use that. They're going to prioritize the centimorgan information. But like,
I think in this case,
the connection.
In this case, yes, I think so. Because I think when they uploaded it, they're going to find a close match. I really believe that.
The way you said it made it sound like they wouldn't replace the centimorgan details with the online search results. Those, okay, you can never replace either one. Centimorgans can't replace the search results. Search results can't replace the centimorgan match. So
I don't know.
I just don't see that as a valid argument.
I don't know where we're missing each other here, but you literally said identically what I said.
Okay. Okay.
So
well, we can move on.
We should, because it's not making sense. Okay, so anyway, past the IGG, there we have a lot more documents to look at.
Yeah,
so
this is probably going to end up being an Idaho 4 night. It seems like, based off all this information, because I have quite a lot too.
Okay, so
tough one, man, because I'm trying to limit our Idaho 4 talk, because so many people are trying, and I guess it's a good place to give a public statement. You guys, we are never only going to be Idaho 4. It's not going to happen. No matter how many, I think a lot of people leaving those comments are people that are trying to control the direction of the podcast anyways. They don't want us on YouTube as competition. And due to that, they want us to stick to one case, which is Idaho 4, so that when this case is over, that's it, the channel's over. We've never started like that, and we're never going to stick to that. The Idaho 4 case is just the main case that we're digging into, and we're ripping apart every piece of the investigation because we believe there's evidence there to do that. But we are never going to be primarily only Idaho 4, you guys. So we're true crime in general, and we cover everything. Right now, these are just the biggest cases on the books. Okay.
Yeah. And
what are we on?
Look, I think it's totally possible to frame somebody and use IGG at the same time. Like, so I don't think that even if there was a match with centimorgans that was a high of like close relation, I don't think that necessarily means like he's guilty.
Well, it's the classic argument that everyone makes when it comes to the Idaho 4 information. Is the argument is you're crazy. They are not framing Bryan Kohberger. How do you think they got his DNA there? Listen, in my opinion, if we're going tin hat, which tin hat doesn't mean it's not possible. We have thousands and thousands of cases where people have been set up by law enforcement. Because law enforcement are people, and people do bad things sometimes. It just comes with people, right? But if he's being set up, if this is some kind of real situation where he's being set up, I do not think his DNA was ever at the crime scene. I want to be very clear about that. I do not think his DNA was ever at the crime scene, ever. I think that it is much easier to get DNA inserted into a test than it is on a crime scene. One is a guaranteed controlled outcome. The other is not. So if he's set up, I don't believe his DNA was ever there, ever.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to make. Really good point. So the next one we're going to be covering is the objection to state's motion to close hearings pursuant to ICAR 32G and proposed scheduling order. I think it's cut off a little. Yeah, that's good. So comes now Bryan C. Kohberger, by through his attorneys of record, and hereby objects to the state's motion to close the hearing to compel on May 14th, 2024. The grounds are that Mr. Kohberger has a constitutional right to a fair and public trial. No reason exists to prevent him from a public pretrial proceeding, a proceeding to ensure fairness and access to the state's information. Further, the state has made no showing that the hearing should be closed under I think it's supposed to say ICAR 32. There is simply no legitimate reason that a motion to compel discovery should be shielded from the public. The process of sealing is being abused by the state and its law enforcement agents, including the FBI, to hide how discovery is being withheld in this case. Wow. Testimony and argument on information sought by Mr. Kohberger does not meet the narrow scope of what the state can shield from public view. Idaho Court Administrative Rule 32. Not only is there no authority to protect the FBI, other law enforcement agents, and the state in this matter, this request to deny Mr. Kohberger an open hearing is a clear violation of his right to a public trial. See Weaver v. Massachusetts, 2017, Waller v. Georgia, 1984. Sealing of motion to suppress to protect privacy of witnesses was error requiring remand for new public hearing. State v. Ingram, 2013. It cites some Constitution Amendment things, you know, in another case. So the state has failed to provide all the requested items that were asked for in the defense's supplemental request for discovery to support the charges against Mr. Kohberger. The state has failed to provide all the requested items that were asked for in the defense's supplemental request for discovery to support the charges against Mr. Kohberger. All of them. Meaning that last one, those last two we were talking about, they didn't provide any of it. Does that mean no cast report?
Dude, I'm telling you. Yeah, I
no cast report. I think this confirms it for me.
No official expert has agreed with my take on that. And I'm not saying that in some egotistical way. I'm just not an expert when it comes to law. So, you know, in my opinion, my take on the topic shouldn't have a lot of value, you guys. But based off the cell phone evidence, the way that it was worded, you guys, based off my experience, I'm telling you, Ray did not have access to any of the cell phone evidence, meaning there's no cast report in the defense's possession. Here, we can finish this and then
Okay, yeah, we'll get into it because there's only a little bit left.
Okay.
Okay, so they didn't provide any other requested items. Thus, the defense has had to file its 4th and 5th motions to compel. It is not lost on Mr. Kohberger that the state is asking for a scheduling order to obtain information from the defense to be used in support of our motions to compel the state's discovery. However, Mr. Kohberger suggests a dual deadline for both the prosecution and defense to file notice of witnesses, exhibits, expert reports, or other evidence relied upon at the 4th and 5th motions to compel by May 7th, 2024. Response disclosures by both parties should be due by May 10th, 2024. Signed, Ann Taylor. Wow.
So, here is what I was going to say.
These motions, okay,
are massive. I know.
Massive in this case. This is like bigger than the alibi, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Can you full screen us?
I don't have a lot of.
I don't think
there's a lot in the alibi. I've tried to share that from the very beginning. It's nice having the alibi. However, there's no new information. Well, except that they're going to try and prove that he wasn't there, which I assumed already. But yeah. So one of the things that I was going to say where I almost started talking just a minute ago is I personally do not like the approach that they are taking, focusing on fault of the FBI. I think that is a bad move. I think it is going to bite them in the butt. I think that it is going to promote the FBI to side with the prosecution in this case, and I think it's going to work against them. In my opinion, they should have ignored the Fed's involvement altogether, minimized the Fed involvement altogether, and stuck with focusing on the prosecution and the state. In my opinion. But
I think it's their job to question law enforcement. That is literally the defense's job, is to question the evidence, question law enforcement. So I don't think they're doing anything wrong personally. I don't know that I completely agree with you.
The views are so off here. We have a lot of people on right now and growing very quick, you guys. The YouTube chat, as normal, is moving right along. I saw we had some comments coming in from Twitter. We had some comments coming in from Twitch. But if you are one of the people on any of the international platforms, come and you want to join in the chat, come hang out on YouTube. You just go to youtube.com and youtube.com and search Thought Riot Podcast, youtube.com and Thought Riot Podcast, and you will find our thumb. And I always defend the FBI, you guys, and it's not because I am the FBI, because in this case, I don't think they're at fault. I am not looking. Listen, when I make an argument, my goal is to make that argument as strong as I possibly can, okay? And in this argument, I do not see a benefit going at this case. And remember, I'm not trying to prove Bryan Kohberger is innocent. I have no idea. I think Bryan Kohberger could be guilty. I think he could be involved in some way. I think there could be some connection. I don't know, but I don't see a benefit in this case going through this case and being like, you're guilty and you're guilty and you're guilty. By the way, judge, you're guilty. Oh, Bill Thompson, you're definitely guilty. FBI for sure guilty. ISP guilty. Moscow PD guilty. You guys are all guilty. Like, how is that going to benefit your argument? When I'm researching into the evidence of the PCA, I am seeing problems with the evidence that was gathered by Moscow PD and ISP officers. The one shady thing I see from the FBI is that they went and grabbed the DNA evidence from Othram before it was done. That is the one shady piece. And do I think the FBI has actual science they don't want to share with the rest of us? For sure. So is it shady? I don't know. I can't determine that without knowing what it is they're trying to hide and if it's worth risking a human life.
Yeah,
you know?
I see being skeptical of calling out the FBI, but look, every law enforcement agency has made mistakes in the past and can make mistakes in the future. So I don't feel like I have a bias there stopping me from looking at them like, are they doing something shady? Because look, the thing is that it's not the whole of the FBI. Like, if the FBI is implicated in this case as doing something shady and corrupt, it does not mean the entire FBI is corrupt. It means there's a certain faction of it that is. Usually there's certain factions. Usually there are certain factions of an agency as big as this FBI that are corrupt. It's not going to be the whole one. Like when we look at the Martin Luther King thing, okay, that they wrote the letter to him, trying to get him to unalive himself, and were literally
and told his wife that he was going to adult group,
which she already knew. She already knew and was okay with. So the thing is with that whole situation, there's been people that were in the FBI at that time who've come out and done interviews about it, and they were not a part of it. They weren't corrupt, but they know who were. They knew that faction, this group of agents who was doing all of this stuff, and was who was the guy? Was it Hoover at the time?
Yep.
Hoover's FBI. Yep, that was the corrupt one. And he had this group of agents that would go out and do his dirty work. That was the issue with the FBI then. Nowadays, it could just be certain FBI members in Idaho. It could just be certain ones in that area. And we just don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I also don't think because part of the issues we're having with our channel too is law enforcement control, trying to control that narrative. And I don't believe it is the feds. I think it's more local with connections to this case. Absolutely. And, it's more than just thinking that. But, there's a lot of reasons why public perception is one of the most important things in a court hearing. Me personally, I think that, 60% of the success of court cases is based off of grandstanding and the presentation of the attorney. Me personally, okay? But I'm not an attorney. I'm not connected to anything that has any legal influence of anything. But I am a salesman, and I think that getting really good at creating a connection between you and your viewers, or you and the person you're talking to, or you and the jury, or you and the judge, or whatever is one of the most important things you can do. You got to humanize them, because the mainstream media has been working so dang hard to make him seem like a psychopathic incel serial killer, you know, and when he becomes humanized in front of a jury, you know,
Look, I think
that's going to start creating doubt.
Look, I think in the fact that Bill Thompson sent FBI agents at his own behest to Vargas's house, and
but that's not an FBI issue. That's a Bill Thompson issue.
Yeah, but the fact that they would do that for him.
I mean, they have some involved. Well, no. So yeah, but the FBI was going to present what we believe Vargas with that, what was that one order? The TUI, and say, you know, you can't be an expert on this case because you are an expert on some of these cases that have to do with federal cases.
Well, the thing is if you're an expert for the FBI, if you've done contracted work for them, you can't just go be a part of a court case without their permission. You can't reveal their secrets,
which is wild,
of how they operate without a TUI letter, basically.
They essentially own you as an expert once you're an expert on a Fed case.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a regulation called TUI, and we've heard about this TUI letter that was sent, okay, to Bill Thompson that they gave to the defense in this case about the IGG and all this stuff. Well, that TUI regulation prohibits people who have done contracted work for the FBI or any agents of the FBI from going and being a part of court cases, revealing information, doing anything without it being first approved. They have to get approval first. And we don't believe Vargas did. And we believe Vargas did do work for them, which is why we think that Bill Thompson had them go out there and talk to her. So it may not be technically corruption, but it's...
No, but it looked really bad in that situation, because what they should have done is included the defense. It was a defense witness, not a state witness. So it just came off really bad. But I got to be honest, though, after reading that TUI request, I agree with it. I understand why the feds would need to do that. I just think it's too much of a blanket statement is what I think. Like, if you do something great, you know, for your government, for the federal government, and you're an expert for them on one of their cases, then you shouldn't be totally and completely controlled from being an expert on another case out there. There needs to be some kind of regulations. I think experts need to be able to reach out to the FBI and say, hey, FBI, I know I was an expert on this case. I'm going to be being an expert on this case, just want to let you know, something of that nature, you know?
Yeah, it's just how it works, Greg. I mean, look. Oh, and thank you so much. That's Mikey.
Yes.
For putting that out, you know, giving us
Mikey.
Yeah, for being a member for 6 months and gifting a membership.
Absolutely. We appreciate you for that.
Highlight that. Proud and Loud TRP, Thought Riot Podcast. Yes. We love it. Thank you so much.
Bam.
But yeah, I genuinely think that's what happened there with Vargas. I think that's why she's not on the list of the defense's experts anymore. But yeah, I really think that Bill should have included when he was going to call the FBI agents to let them know, or whatever happened there, or they called him, who knows. His next call should have been Ann Taylor.
Yeah.
Or maybe even before. Discuss it with her before. Like, hey, did you know this? You can't just have her as an expert. Like, it has to be approved first. Like, not let her know, to not talk to her about it. So while I don't think it's corruption, I think that it was not very respectful. It wasn't very professional. It was kind of a stab, you know? Yeah, I mean, some people believe that she was taken off for doing interviews with YouTubers and stuff, but that could be part of it too. But I really heavily believe it's the TUI thing.
Yeah, I think there was a few YouTubers that she did interviews with, and it was I understand how there could be a concern. I don't want to come off sideways because I think that YouTube is here for our own personal enjoyment and that everybody,
it's a positive thing.
Even though
yeah.
we create our show to be like a family friendly on mainstream TV type show, that doesn't make our show the right and only way. I think any show as personal as hair let down that you can be, all of them are right, you know, but I
agree. There's a place and time for everything. Certain shows are for certain people, certain shows are not for others. And it's whatever
right
floats your boat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what's the next motion?
Objection to state's motion to close hearing. So order the is it augment the record? Order to augment the record.
Okay.
Okay, let's see here. We have
this is pretty short. Okay.
State of Idaho versus Bryan Kohberger. The court having before it the sealed stipulation to defendant's motion to augment the record and good cause appearing now, therefore. It is hereby ordered that the court shall augment the record with the documents attached to the defendant's motion to augment the record filed with the court on 3/6 of 2024, and that they shall be made a court's exhibit and part of the official file. It is further ordered that the court shall augment the record with the documents attached to the sealed stipulation to defendant's motion to augment the record filed with the court on 4/22 of 2024, and that they shall be made a court's exhibit and part of the official file. Okay, I have no idea what that's pertaining to. Do you?
Okay.
Am I missing something?
So the last one, 4/22 one. Here, let's go back and let's take a look at these real quick. Stipulated motion to seal the stipulation to defendant's motion to augment the record. So it comes now, Bryan C. Kohberger, buying through his attorney, Ann C. Taylor, and with no objection from the Latah County Prosecutor's Office, hereby moves the court for an order to seal the to seal that. Okay. No, we don't want that. Okay. What was the other one? What was the date on the other one? It was 3/4.
3/6 of 2024 and 04/22 of 2024. Jeez.
Motion requested. Motion to seal defendant's motion to augment the record. Was there ever just a motion to augment the record, or is it just the motion to seal it?
What?
I don't think we know what this pertains to. So the motion to seal defendant's motion to augment the record, and it's so short. Comes now, Bryan C. Kohberger by and through his attorney, Ann C. Taylor, hereby moves the court to order for an order to seal defendant's motion to augment the record pursuant to ICAR 32. That's it. That's all it is. What does this entail? Like, what is this about? I have no idea.
I don't know, but I think this is tied to it too, right? Yeah, and this is so this is order sealing the stipulation to defendant's motion to augment the record. We have okay, hang on. The court having before it the stipulated motion to seal the stipulation to defendant's motion to augment the record and good cause appearing now, therefore, it is hereby ordered that the stipulation to defendant's motion to augment the record shall be sealed pursuant to ICAR 32.
Okay, so let's see. It's just to correct a record. Like, they're just trying to correct something that was filed in the past. We just don't know what it applies to.
Right.
Because there's nothing cited here. In any of the documents, there's nothing cited of what this pertains to. But basically just a motion to augment the record is to change it. It's to change something that was filed in the past.
Yeah.
There's literally no way to know what they're talking about, though, which sucks. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, maybe tomorrow we'll have to do a no Idaho for all other true crime video. This is gonna end up being a lot.
Yeah. I am going to bring up Sebastian Rogers after we're done with the documents, just real quick, briefly, though.
Yeah.
Because there is something interesting out. So I'll bring that up very quickly. We're not going to spend a ton of time on it, but I want to keep getting his face out there, talking about him, and pull up what I have.
Use the restroom real quick. Have you read this one?
No.
Okay.
Response to notice of defendant's supplemental response to the state's alibi demand?
Yep.
Okay. We'll read this next.
Okay.
Comes now the state of Idaho by and through the Latah County prosecuting attorney and submits the following initial response to the notice of defendant's supplemental response to state's alibi demand filed herein on April 17th, 2024. Oh, it was filed on April 17th. At the outset, the state incorporates by reference as it fully set forth at this point those portions of the state's July 27, 2023 motion to compel notice of defense of alibi, or alternatively to bar certain evidence to the extent that it relates to the adequacy and timeliness of defendant's alibi notice. The state respectfully submits that the defendant's supplemental alibi response continues to lack the specificity required by Idaho Code 19-519, which provides that the defense shall state the specific place or places at which the defendant claims to have been at the time of the alleged offense and the names and addresses of the witnesses upon whom he intends to rely to establish such alibi. Emphasis added. I mean, if I'm being honest, you guys, I think that they did meet that criteria. It's just not in the standard way that he's looking for, which means a eyewitness is what they're used to, which you know how we feel about that. We think that's BS. I don't think you need a eyewitness. I think an expert witness is more than sufficient, if not better than an eyewitness. It's better. It's better. And they did cite a specific place. They cited Wawa Park. But they did not describe that part in a way to where it was, let's say, firm enough that he was at Wawa Park at the time of the crime. They did not do that. They said because he was at Wawa Park, it couldn't have been his car passing by the cannabis shop. Not that, well, he was at Wawa Park, so it couldn't have been his car in the 1122 King neighborhood. They didn't say that, which is, you know? And thank you so much, Cynthia, for gifting 5 memberships. That is amazing. I appreciate that so much. And I know Brendan does too. I'll have to let him know when he gets back. Congratulations to everybody who got those memberships. And thanks, Cynthia, because she is awesome. She's an OG thought rioter. All right, so let's get back to this. The defendant's April 17th, 2024 submission minimally adds to the alibi notice dated July 24th, 2023. The defendant states that he was driving around during the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022, and drove throughout the area south of Pullman, Washington, west of Moscow, Idaho, including Wawa Park. With the exception of the reference to Wawa Park, which is new, the defendant is offering nothing new to his initial alibi, that he was simply driving around during the morning hours of November 13th, 2022. As the state noted during the August 2023 hearing, the state is aware that the defendant was driving around rural areas of Whitman County, Washington, and Latah County, Idaho, during the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. In fact, the defendant's travel during that time are described in the original probable cause affidavit supporting the criminal complaint in this case. I knew that we hadn't even read this part yet, and I knew that's what was going to be his argument. Is like, well, You know, we already knew he was in these general areas, which to me, the fact that he is even arguing this means that they don't have. Look, to me, and I'll ask Brendan what he thinks about this. To me, this says we don't have the evidence to support the precision of his route. We knew he was in these general areas already. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I could be wrong. As to the defendant's reference to potential testimony about the location of defendant's cell phone on the morning of November 13th, 2022, this information does not rise to the level of an alibi at the time of the homicides because the defendant's cell phone stopped reporting to the cellular network before the homicides and continued to not report until after the homicides. The location of defendant's cell phone at times other than the time of the homicides is not proof of or relevant to the defendant's specific location at the time of the homicides, approximately 4 a.m. to 4:30 a.m. on November 13th, 2022. Do we think that the defense is going to allege it didn't happen at that time? That the crime happened at a different time and he was not there at that time?
Dang, it sounds like what a bad time to use the restroom.
It was a really bad time. So let's scroll back up because I'm curious on your
and
opinion.
Shout
on
out
this.
to Cynthia gifting 5 ThoughtRiot podcast.
I already called it out.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. That is awesome. And welcome everybody. If you're one of the new members, then you are joining at kind of a hectic time for the show right now. We are going through a whole bunch of changes and our streaming schedule is all over the place. We always stream from 8:30 to 9, but there will be more regular members only content once we get in the new studio, and the new studio is going to be awesome. So just hang tight and welcome everybody.
Yes. Okay.
Give me the rundown, brief rundown.
So the brief rundown is that they didn't add anything new to the alibi. This is what Bill Thompson is saying. He's saying that they didn't give a specific place at the time of the crime, and they didn't give a witness. Like, I'm assuming he means eyewitness, but he doesn't say that specifically. He says that it minimally adds to the alibi notice they previously submitted. They only included the addition of Wawa Way Park.
Well, duh.
And that they already knew. Okay, but here's where I want your opinion that I was talking about. So it says that as the state noted during the August 2023 hearing, the state is aware that the defendant was driving around rural areas of Whitman County, Washington, and Latah County, Idaho during the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022.
Oh.
Does that say to you they don't have precise location details?
Absolutely, that's what it says.
Oh, so that's what I thought it said too.
I think that this whole document, and I haven't even read the rest of it. I guess we should read the rest. But I think the whole document is all because of that. That's what all of this is, fodder to get this out.
Exactly.
So that he can prep people to be ready for the lack of evidence that their cell phone data is going to give, because we know they can't triangulate.
They
don't have 3.
Exactly. And thank you so much, Shaggy.
Yes, shout out. A whole bunch of people, new members. Welcome everybody. We are super happy to have you all. Welcome to the show. Yeah, thank you. Yes, we appreciate that. Shaggy's always coming with those banger comments too.
Yes,
I love them.
and everybody, congratulations for your membership, and thanks, Shaggy. That's awesome. So I agree. I felt like that told me they don't have precise details on his location, which we already knew technically, but that is more confirmation in my mind that they don't know exactly where he was. They have a very general idea of where he was. At least with maybe like cell phone towers and stuff. But, it really comes down to that footage. What are we going to see on the cameras that they have? What is that going to look like? That's what it comes down to me. How are they going to argue? Because I already feel like
they have to place him there.
Right. They have to put him there somehow. If you have a defense expert arguing he was nowhere near that place, then they got to put him there some other way and say, look, his science is BS because we got him on camera and we can prove that is him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, what I'm curious about is how many cameras are at Wawa Way?
Me too. Are there any trail cameras? Are there any just security cameras around the campground or anything like that? Now we know Twizzle, you know, Stick in the chat drove out there, you guys, and has videos on Dinky's channel.
I haven't watched him all the way through, but I did.
The gate was open at night.
Yeah,
the gate was wide open.
That's such a big deal.
It is.
Yeah, because that's one of the main things people have asked and argued about is, okay, well, they claim he was there, but it closes at this time. Okay, well, clearly the gate doesn't always get closed. And how far of a walk is it from, you know, parking outside of there? I think this alibi has the potential to be incredible gold for Bryan Kohberger, as long as they're supporting evidence. If there's not, it is going to bury them.
Yeah, and exactly. You could walk in the park too, even if it were locked. But
yeah.
But the thing is like that gate being open, like, goes to show it's not this thing where every night they're locking the gate and that's it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Also,
is common.
That park is tiny compared to that whole mountain range and the beauty of that area. That park is a very tiny part of that.
Yeah.
So I just, there's no argument there in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I am curious if there's any cameras. It is the state's position that defendants continued failure to adequately comply with the Idaho Code 19-519 does not trigger a response under Idaho Code 19-519-2. If the court deems the defendant's supplemental response to be in compliance with the requirements of Idaho Code 19-519, the state requests additional time pursuant to Idaho Code 19-519, subsection 5, to prepare a list of witnesses to establish the defendant's presence at the scene of the homicides. As to witnesses to rebut a claim of alibi, the defendant's failure to adequately comply with the Idaho Code means the state does not know what specific assertions it needs to rebut. If the court allows the defense to offer further witnesses or information regarding alibi, which the state opposes as described below, and bring it into compliance with Idaho Code 19-519, the state will then respond accordingly pursuant to Idaho Code 19-519, subsection 2. This is just a ridiculous paragraph.
That is so wild. And this goes back to the argument that we've had from the very beginning, that when we started digging into this case, is that the prosecution is supposed to be a tool for the people, okay? They are supposed to be the truth finders and truth seekers, not trying to condemn somebody or in general anybody in any case because they want a W, they want to win, right? And to me, why wouldn't they want other people to come forward? Don't you think that our court system would work so much better if the prosecution and the defense and the judge were all on the same page and all looking for the truth simultaneously, trying to figure it out?
That's the point. They are supposed to.
Right. And currently, right now, the best person to pursue is Bryan Kohberger. But like, how bad does that look for the prosecution to come out and be like, hey, we know that you're saying that you were somewhere else during the crime, but we don't want to hear any experts that could help prove that.
Right.
So go ahead and say what you want, but we're not going to let you prove it.
What? That's what it's. Wait, that's what you got from this?
Yeah, that is what I got. What did you get? They're saying that they understand what they were adding to it, and they don't think that the information that the defense has given them was enough. They don't have a full list of additional supporting evidence and or experts, and the state is ready to object when they have that. That's essentially what is being said here. So unless I'm just failing at understanding this, which is
Okay.
totally possible.
So the state is requesting additional time, and they're citing that code to prepare a list of witnesses to establish a defendant's presence at the scene. So they're requesting additional time to get their own witnesses to rebut his alibi. As to witnesses to rebut a claim of alibi, the defendant's failure to adequately comply with the Idaho Code means the state does not know what specific assertions it needs to rebut. So their failure to comply is hindering their ability to form a rebuttal. Okay.
Yeah.
If the court allows the defense to offer further witnesses or information regarding alibi. Okay. If the court allows the defense to offer further witnesses or information regarding alibi, which the state opposes as described below, and bring it. So they're saying they're about to explain why they do not think the state should let them bring further witnesses into this alibi.
Right.
The state opposes as described. Okay, bring it into compliance. Okay, the state will then respond accordingly.
Yeah.
Okay, so
they're essentially saying, I'm pretty sure that's what they're saying is what I said.
Is that you're not allowed to bring any more witnesses.
Is that they're saying we don't agree with the lack of evidence that you brought forward to add on to the alibi. And if you are planning on bringing forward additional evidence, we need to know about it so we can object to it. That's what I'm reading.
That's so
here.
messed up. That is what it's saying. You're not allowed.
So.
They can't do that. The judge cannot do that, or else he will get an appeal immediately if he gets convicted.
I mean, sure, but
if they're like, you can't bring another witness to prove your alibi, dude, that's not happening. That is such a ridiculous request. And it's really interesting to me. So somebody left a comment, Sunny Spirit, saying, so many people are claiming the defense is trying to build an alibi with the prosecution's discovery, but this is showing it's BS basically. Because they can't rebut it.
Yes. Yeah, and that's interesting.
They're like, you're not giving us enough of your information so we can rebut it.
Right. In my opinion, I think it would be great if the defense built an alibi off of the prosecution's discovery, because discovery is there as evidence for both sides. It's not a one-sided piece of evidence. You know what I mean? So, but it sounds like the prosecution is worried what the defense is bringing forward, which again, in most cases, if you have the correct evidence to convict, would you be worried?
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm. And I think Heather made a good point too, that it's pretty clear Anna's not planning on defending Bryan with presenting an alibi. Also, aka the strategy with the whole alibi defense, it won't be based on the alibi. And I wonder if that's true because I wonder if it's not going to be an alibi defense necessarily, but it's going to be rebutting every piece of evidence. So it's not just like hinging on the alibi. Because
I don't think so. I think that's a fail.
In the Karen Reed case,
and using that as an example,
they're hinging on the third party culprit defense.
Yeah, and Karen Reed herself has been ripped apart thus far. It has not been a good argument for Karen Reed. The judge has essentially came forward and said, stop talking about everybody else except Karen Reed, which if you're trying to...
This has only been day one.
Okay, but I'm talking pre-trial. If you're trying to rebut everything that the prosecution is bringing forward, then... no, what you're talking about is the trial. What I'm talking about was conducted in pre-trial of Karen Reed. But when it applies to this, judges don't appreciate when cases come forward and the defense is proving somebody else did it. They want them to focus on their defendant. Okay. So if you have the evidence to support an alibi-based defense, I think that's more statistically successful than rebutting or arguing every piece of evidence the state brings forward.
Look, the opening statements today in the Karen Reed case, just to bring that up briefly, were the defense's opening statement was incredible. Like that lawyer knows how to grandstand. He knows how to connect with a jury. He knows how to make an argument. The state's opening statement about put me to sleep. Okay. I was so bored when the state was giving their opening statement. And I was like, yeah, same old, you know, this is so boring. And then when the defense lawyer came on, I was like, whoa, he really took it there. And I felt like, yeah, like he got me excited. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
He had it. Okay. He had that spark, you know? And
Mhm.
I think this is going to be a really, really interesting trial, you guys. And we will cover that more hopefully tomorrow. We will talk
Yeah,
more
yeah.
about
This
day
wasn't
one.
planned to be an Idaho 4
Right.
night, but
I
this
was going to
is
touch on Karen Reed, but we're going to touch on it tomorrow and do like a, you know, overview of day one and day two. But opening statements were fire on the defense's side. I was so hyped about it.
Mhm.
Okay. So I think that there is something to that. I think that the alibi defense, I don't know if it's going to hinge on that. I don't know if she's going to put all her eggs in that basket. What if it's not? The only way she would
Yeah, but the
is
thing is by arguing that there could be a possibility that they're not going to go with an alibi defense they're saying that their alibi sucks.
you're seeing it too black, kind of. You're
Yeah.
seeing it too black and white, though, I think. I think that with the lack of towers in the area, with the lack of data, they may be able to point to him being in a different direction, but not 100% prove it. So they're going to work on literally tackling each piece of evidence, and casting doubt in each piece of every process.
Maybe, I don't know.
It might be way stronger than it comes off initially when me just saying it. It could be super strong.
I don't think so, but I got you. And yeah, I think it's a possibility. However, I think that it is overlooking the social connection and the social desire to support your systems in your community. And so just coming out and saying, hey, you guys are a bunch of liars, lie, 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 lie. And yes, that's a very black and white statement, but I don't think that's going to gain any favor from the jurors, because remember, a court case is for the jurors to determine what they believe about the defendant, right?
Right.
So just coming out like I said, using the Karen Reed case as an example, the judge despised everything in pretrial that had to do with the Karen Reed case and bringing evidence to share why they shouldn't be going to court, trying to bring evidence why it showed that he took steps like stair steps and all this stuff, and the judge was not about it. And maybe it's because the judge is dirty. I don't know. I walk on eggshells anytime I bring something up like that, because that is a very serious statement. And I do not think there's just this world we live in where there's just dirty judges everywhere. I don't think that's a thing. I support our systems. I support the American systems, the judicial systems, and everybody from the top down. But are there fraudulent humans in all positions? Yes, that
I don't
comes
know.
with being a human.
I
but
think tackling each piece of the process could be a winning strategy. I really do. But maybe we can get more into defense strategies and stuff like that. That would be a really interesting thing to dive into. All the different strategies they use, ways they can tackle this. That would be really interesting. So moving on, let's finish the rest of this document. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's been approximately 11 months since the state filed its request for a discovery disclosure alibi demand on May 23rd, 2023, and almost a year and a half since the homicides occurred. The defendant has been given more time than he is legally entitled in order to provide his alibi. The state is substantially prejudiced and compromised in its ability to investigate and respond to new or additional alibi-related disclosures. As the Idaho Court of Appeals noted in State v. Juarez, 196 Idaho 247 277, 2021. It's an appeal court, I think. The state has legitimate interest in obtaining timely and complete discovery response from the defendant. Oh, yeah. The state respectfully submits that we essentially remain in the same position as in July and August of 2023, and that, like Juarez, we don't know how this is an alibi at all. As the state further noted in its July 27th, yeah, July 27th, 2023.
Do they need the definition of alibi? Like,
I mean, he already cited the definition for alibi, that being a specific place at the time of the crime and a witness, which they did technically kind of comply
that's
with.
not the requirements of an alibi.
It is in Idaho.
Okay, in Idaho. Gotcha.
It is a requirement.
Okay.
That is what an alibi is by definition in their law.
That's so ridiculous. They lean on eyewitnesses. Come on.
But the thing is that in the alibi, I could see their argument in one way, and that is the only time they're really refuting technically in Bryan's alibi is that because he was in Wawa Park, it couldn't have been his car passing by the cannabis shop. That's the only time they're technically refuting. They don't say because he was in Wawa Park, he wasn't at the crime scene. They don't say that. So I can kind of see his argument. They need to be that clear that they have proof he wasn't at the crime scene.
I mean,
unless they're going to say the same thing, that his phone stopped reporting to the network and they have zero data during that time.
But he's jumping the gun here. Okay, they've already established that they're going to be proving their alibi using experts and giving the details around how they're going to do that. He's saying, well, hurry up, and you should have gave me everything, every detail, every how, every when, and all the science you're going to use. Then what's the point of the expert?
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I get your point.
So I don't agree. I think their alibi is fine.
Yeah. I think Anne is, I agree. I think Anne is refusing to show her complete hand to the state too.
Of course.
And I think that's what she should be doing.
Yeah.
But there is this alibi demand specifically in Idaho, you guys. The reason it exists, that's why I read I forget when we read it, but I read the statute because it is specifically to help the state refute it. It's literally legally required so that the state can see that part of the defense's hand to be able to refute it with experts. So which part was I at? Do you remember? The state respectfully submits. Was I at the top of this? No. The state respectfully submits that we essentially remain in the same position. Okay, we don't know how this is an alibi at all. As the state further noted in its July 27th, 2023 motion to compel notice of defense of alibi or alternatively to bar certain evidence, the United States Supreme Court has observed in Taylor v. Illinois the ease with which an alibi can be fabricated and the state's interest in protecting itself against 11th hour defense is both obvious and legitimate. It cites two more cases. Based on the above, the state respectfully...
That's not 11th hour, but okay.
Right.
I guess we need to look into that.
Right. Based on the above, the state respectfully requests that the court enter an order denying the defendant any further opportunity to add to any purported claim of alibi and preclude testimony by anyone other than the defendant as to the defendant's absence from or presence at the scene of the homicide. Yeah. Homicide. And why did he put it in parentheses? Okay, so it's just like he's citing a code. The defendant any further opportunity to add any purported claim of alibi and preclude testimony from any other than the defendant. By anyone other than the defendant. They're saying they don't want him to have any witnesses at all except for himself. Yeah. So they're essentially saying call him to the stand.
Yeah. So the defendant any further opportunity to add to any purported claim of an alibi. That's absurd. Do you understand like that sentence? So based on the above, the state respectfully requests that the court enter an order denying the defendant any further opportunity to add to any purported claim of alibi. They're saying they don't want any more information and preclude testimony by anyone other than the defendant as to the defendant's absence from or presence at the scene of the homicide. So they're saying, sorry, but we aren't going to let you bring any experts. We aren't going to let you bring any eyewitnesses. So dude, this is so absurd. So in one page, they're saying you didn't meet the regulations of what Idaho says an alibi is. Oh, by the way, we don't want you to bring any eyewitnesses forward. Which one are you going to go with?
Okay, do you think this is a way that they're trying to not give over the cast report, saying it's not discoverable because they're not going to use that information, and so the defense can't use it, or their expert Cy Ray? Are they going in that direction of not wanting to use the cast report because they don't maybe have it?
I mean, that would be wild stuff.
It would. Or they just know it's going to be crap, and the cast report is going to say there's very little coverage, essentially. So we can only put him in a very general area of the county.
I mean, either way, that's going to help for the defense regardless, because, okay, so there's now been two things where there's some mega questions around them. And one of them is the cast report, right? And they're not going to be able to give an honest or reliable opinion of where they were. I think that's a pretty big deal. I don't know if this is what it's suggesting. I have no idea, you guys, but I think that this is really interesting because it's contradicting itself in this own document here, or in this own filing here, where you have Bill Thompson saying you didn't give an alibi because you didn't meet the expectations of the state of Idaho, where you have an eyewitness, but we don't want you to bring forward an eyewitness. So I don't know. To me, this feels like, I feel like I can see Bill Thompson standing up in court saying this himself. Like, you know how uncomfortable Bill Thompson has seemed in court over the last 4. Like, that's how it feels. It kind of feels like a jumbled up mess of a report where
it does.
Like, okay, so when you're reading this, what is the goal of this report, right? And how do they plan on getting to that goal? In my opinion, there's multiple things in here that are contradictory. There's multiple things in here that that leave too many questions of what they're trying to imply and the direction they're going by submitting this. And look, if we're going to take the stance that a defendant isn't even allowed to have the right to supply their own and full alibi with any information that they want, whoa, what is going on here? I
just really wonder if what we're dealing with here is that Payne consulted with a cast agent, just like he said in the PCA.
And he didn't.
And, well, no, maybe he did. And that's the draft.
I don't know.
That is what they're considering the cast report draft. It is a draft done by a law enforcement agent, and that's all they got. And that for the FBI to do a cast report, to peer review this evidence, the FBI is like, we don't really want to put our name on this because it's not a cast report.
That will be insane. Like, if they didn't even attempt a cast.
What if the cast team came out and was like, dude, there's not enough coverage here. We can't do it, Payne. Investigators, Bill Thompson, we can't do it. There's nothing to go off of. It will be so general that it will hurt your case.
Yeah, I mean,
you should rely on something else like software, okay? Like Cy Ray software, something like that, something similar to that.
Oh, I don't think that's enough. I think that
Cy Ray literally trained thousands of law enforcement officers to use this software on their own accord and not use the cast team.
Yeah, but
that's the kind of things they do in law enforcement, like the IGG, having law enforcement officers do stuff like that. Taking a little training class, and then they're doing it themselves, and they have no idea what the heck they're doing, really.
Yeah, I got you. I understand where you're coming from. However,
they have very little idea of what they're doing.
I'm a huge advocate for cellular triangulation and data location through networks. Okay, most of you know this, but when I'm saying that, that's understanding that hinges on whether they have enough network coverage in an area. We need at least 4 towers overlapping for the potential place or location of the crime. There's no way around that. You need 3 minimum with a 4th quality control. And I don't think that there is no way around that. You have to have that.
Yeah.
So without that, you're not going to have enough data to give a good enough location service or a location out there. And I think you could still supply the evidence if you only had 1 tower or 2 towers, but you need to be so brutally honest and upfront, which a lot of times evidence isn't. Evidence is slighted one way or the other to support either the defense or the prosecution, and give a percentage of likelihood.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So that's my biggest concern. And I don't know. I don't know. I wish I did know. I wish I could give a 100% transparent and clear answer of this is the direction I think they're going. And it's too many question marks. There's too much vague going on in this possible equation of what they could be looking for here in this, in these documents. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. So somebody, Translucent, asked, why do we need towers when we have satellites?
So towers are more reliable when you have enough tower coverage. I hope that was a good enough explanation.
What?
Towers are more reliable when you have a thorough enough coverage of the area.
When you're saying that, you don't mean towers are more precise. You just mean more reliable.
I mean, they can be precise in certain more precise in certain situations. GPS has the potential to track you down to a 12-inch area if conditions are perfect.
But it's very heavily affected by a lot of different things, the environment,
everything.
And cell towers nowadays are not. So having both is best for locating somebody, really, because there's never a perfect environment.
Geo-blended location services are the best. Yeah, right. Absolutely.
And satellites don't, we've covered this a lot, you guys. Satellites don't just beam down to your phone. The connection goes to a radio tower. Just like your cell phone goes to a tower, your phone goes to a radio tower and then up to a satellite. So it's not just like boom and perfect 100% of the time. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish it did.
It's probably part of the reason, our channel is being messed with is because we cover some of that science. Traditionally, law enforcement does not like this stuff getting out there.
You know who had an expert on surrounding this topic recently was True Crime with Sarge. Okay. And with the Sarge, and he's what is his full name? He's ex-law enforcement, and he's been on Nancy Grace. He's been on Court TV. He's been on a bunch of shows. And I always thought he was extremely biased, okay? I thought he was definitely a guilter. But after listening to that episode, I was pleasantly surprised and impressed.
Okay.
He is much more in the center than I realized. Yeah. And he's ex-law enforcement. And he made a comment, and it made me want to go back and watch some of his older content, because he said, if you think I am, basically against Kohberger and think he's guilty and am pro-law enforcement, then you haven't been listening. He said, because I have been extremely critical of law enforcement, especially when it comes to the crime scene in this case. Good. He said, I've been very critical of them. And it made me go, whoa, I want to go back and watch the rest of his content on this case because I didn't know that. Oh, Jack Alone. Is it something Jack Alone?
What? I don't know. Pull it up. I'll share his
search True
channel.
Crime with the Sarge.
Okay.
But dude, if you just watched him on mainstream media, you would not know that he is much more balanced than he is presented as in
this.
Yeah. That's him. That's him.
Okay.
Joseph Jack Alone.
Okay.
Yeah, that's him. But he had a cell expert on, and he said very similar things to that Brendan says all the time in describing some of this information. And it was
here. What can the cell phone data tell us? Okay. And I will share this real quick for everyone to watch at a later date.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. So shout out to him. I think he did great. I think the expert explained a lot of things really well. What does it say? He was the company that expert created?
What? Where?
They said in the description.
Okay.
It said digital forensic expert Frank Thornton of Blackthorn Information Security.
Okay.
Cool.
Cool.
I never heard of Blackthorn before.
Yeah. And what he said the same things I have been
very
saying.
Similar things to what you've been saying. And he's created tech around this, you know.
That's it. I need to create some software, show him how it's done.
But I'm
not that good.
It was very fascinating. And I thought it was great. So what is the next document in the lineup?
Yeah.
So we had the objection, right? Oh, response. Okay, we had the response. Now there's a temporary order sealing exhibit and a notice of hearing. That's all we have left.
Okay, temporary order sealing exhibit.
Yeah, we'll just take a peek at it. I doubt it's going to be much.
Okay. Let's see here. All right. All right. State of Idaho versus Bryan Kohberger, defendant. Temporary order sealing exhibit 1 of state's response to defendant's fourth motion to compel discovery pending hearing. Based upon the state's motion to temporarily seal exhibit 1 of state's response to defendant's fourth motion to compel discovery pending hearing filed herein. Excuse me. The court does hereby confirm and order that Exhibit 1 of the state's response to defendant's fourth motion to compel discovery exempt from disclosure and are sealed pursuant to the Idaho Court Administrative Rule 32G1 for reasons stated in the said motion and until a hearing can be held on the matter. All right. More sealing, no surprise.
Right.
Notice of hearing. Okay, let's see here. Okay. In the District Court of the 2nd Judicial District of the State of Idaho, in and for the County of Latah, State of Idaho, Bryan C. Kohberger, notice of hearing. Notice is given that the above entitled case is set for 10 a.m. with Judge
May 2nd.
Yeah.
Motion hearing on May 2nd at 10 a.m. State's motion to close hearings and defendants. Wait, they're having a whole hearing on the state's motion to close hearings?
Yep.
And defendants objection, you guys.
Yep.
There's a whole hearing on if they're going to close the upcoming motion to compel hearings.
Yep. Yep.
Which this is, oh my gosh. And considering everything Ann Taylor just filed calling out the state, this is going to be good. This is going to be a good one. Oh my gosh. This is going to be intense, I think.
Yeah, it very well could
Can
be.
you put us on big screen now? Mikey gifted a membership too, if you can highlight that.
Oh, all right. Thank you, Mikey. Absolutely. We appreciate that and appreciate you and welcome any of the new members. hopefully soon, you know, YouTube will figure out this whole issue we're having with the manipulation of the views on our channel and stuff, and you guys will actually be able to see and be part of a larger chat. No worries though, whenever it happens, it happens.
So I just I said we would cover this when we were done with the motions real quickly because it's interesting. And this has to do with the Sebastian Rogers case. But I don't know if you wanted to finish saying what you were saying.
No, we can go into this. I don't even remember what I was saying, but
I mean, it
think
wasn't
was
about
just
a
saying,
case.
welcome everybody to Thought Riot Podcast. Super happy to have you here.
So if you could pull up that picture, like, can you blow it up?
I mean, it's a
like
weird
that.
shape, but okay. Hang on.
I know it's a weird shape. Well, you could leave it like that and then we could like zoom in or something.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
That is zoomed, I think.
Well,
Whoa.
zoom out. Zoom out. I want to leave it zoomed out for the meantime. Okay. Okay, so make it full screen. So this has been posted from a Facebook group, Finding Sebastian Rogers. And somebody is claiming to think they have seen him. Now, this is what was posted with it, okay? It doesn't say who posted it. I'm not sure who posted it, but it was in the mysterious disappearance of Sebastian Rogers. And if you guys don't know which group that is JLR's group on this, basically. But Sebastian Rogers was a 15-year-old autistic kid with a chromosome deletion who went missing, or at least was reported missing, on February 26th of this year. He's been gone now for over 2 months, and this case has been full of drama and fighting amongst the, you know, biological parents and a step parent, Chris and Katie Proudfoot and Seth Rogers. And it's just like, where did he go? Right now, all we know is the cops believe he walked out his front door in the middle of the night with no shoes on and just a keychain flashlight.
Yeah.
Now, this was posted on this group, okay, today or yesterday. It says that this was not photoshopped. Added photo with the timestamp. I'm just trying to help. Please be kind. Hello, my friend, a local here in Hendersonville, saw this kid in North Carolina this past weekend. The resemblance to Sebastian is uncanny. And yes, she called it into the TBI tip line. Can you zoom in, please, to his face?
Yes.
Does anyone recognize the woman he was with in the pink shirt? He didn't seem in distress or uncomfortable. My friend said that you could tell he knew the people he was with. This was a paid entrance to a visitor center off the Blue Ridge Parkway. So there should be cameras in the area and inside the visitor center. What do you think? Cross posted. And you guys, it looks so much like him. I will send you this picture too.
Yeah, send me that pic.
It looks, I mean, it's a side by side, but it's the same picture. It just includes the post.
Okay, I can't tell from right here, but okay.
It looks so much like him.
Whoa. You didn't just send me the picture?
I copy and pasted it. No, I didn't just send you the picture. I sent you the link.
Okay. There's nowhere to get that right here?
Can you just zoom in? I mean, you can save the picture and then just pull it up, no?
Yeah, that's a lot easier.
I mean, I was just going to show the whole post.
Yeah, it's not going to let me. It's either going to be small or large. So
then why aren't you right-clicking the picture and saving it? Do you want me to do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me see if I can. Okay, let's see here.
I'm already sending it to you. So
well, hang on. I think I figured it out here. As long as it shows on the screen all the way. Yep. Okay. We're good. We're good. We are good.
It looks so much like him. Like a lot like him. The same, it looks like the same glasses, the same type of hair, the same facial structure. I wish they got a picture of him facing up though. Like, why did you get a picture of him facing down?
If you thought it was him, I just feel like you would have
said Sebastian.
No.
Talk to him.
You got a picture
took a video.
of his face.
Take a video.
I think anyone would know to get a picture of his face, like, you know, his profile of his face.
It doesn't mean it's not him though.
Yeah.
It's just very interesting. Why does everyone who makes reports in this case like do it in such a terrible way?
What do you mean?
Like, thank you for reporting it if you did, but like, I don't know, just be sure. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I hope that they didn't take eyes off him and call 911. But
yeah. Yep. Yep. But I mean, if they did do that, then they probably wouldn't have posted this online.
So,
you know,
yeah.
Just
no, they still could have. Absolutely, they still could have.
Why? If
what do you mean?
Were involved in stuff? If they followed and called the cops?
Yes, they could have still posted it online.
Okay.
They may not have called 911. They may have only called 1-800-TBI-FIND, which is why I keep saying, you guys, if you see somebody that looks like him, don't just call 1-800-TBI-FIND. Call 911 first. No matter where you are, call 911 first, then 1-800-TBI-FIND. Like, if I were to see a missing child, okay, I would call 911 and let them know. And then my very next call would be 1-800-TBI-FIND.
Yep. Yep.
Because I want authorities there ASAP. This is a missing child. You don't know if they're in danger. You can't let them out of your sight. You can't let them get away very far before law enforcement is there.
Yep. For sure.
And I understand it's uncomfortable. Like, oh, if you're wrong, then you just called cops on innocent people. I get that. That's uncomfortable. But the thing is there's a missing kid. And if there's a chance that you could be correct, then you have to take that chance.
Yeah, I forgot to conclude the poll here. So do you think the prosecution has the cast report via the FBI? We have 62% of the people say no, 22% of the people say yes, and 15% of the people say I don't know.
Very interesting. So what do you guys think? Do you think this looks, I mean, I think it looks a ton like Sebastian. Like a ton. What do you think?
I don't know. I have such a hard time with that. Making that.
Even if it's not Sebastian, you can say it looks like him.
I don't know. I see why people are drawing the connection between these two pictures, but somebody looking down, that's not going to give you a good understanding of like how they look. Is the hair color right? Yeah, it could be. Do the eyebrows look right? Yeah. Do these glasses look similar? Yeah.
So Sebastian was 5 feet 5 inches tall, 120 pounds with dirty blonde hair. Do you think he looks 5'5", or does that he look too tall?
Gosh, I don't know. That is not my strong suit there.
Zoom out a little.
I can't a little.
Oh, it doesn't let you do it a little.
It doesn't.
So, okay, scroll down to the shoes. You guys, Sebastian left the house not wearing shoes, apparently. That's what they claim, that all his shoes are accounted for and no shoes went with him when he left. So these are the shoes that are in this picture, but I don't know if those are relevant. Do those look like a particular brand to you? To me, they look like off-brand, like very cheap shoes.
Oh,
what do you think?
I have no idea. I think so a lot of my shoes look like that. That's just a standard look for shoes right now. That single piece form fit. netted shoe. So I don't know.
Yeah, well,
But they
5'5",
do look new.
5'5" isn't short. Like, that's not short.
Yeah.
That kid does not look super tall to me. You're 5'5"?
Yep.
No way. You'd be shorter than me then.
Oh.
You're not. They kind of look like Skechers. Yeah, I think they look like Skechers. 5'5" is short for a guy, but not when he's 15.
Yeah.
A 15-year-old at 5'5" would be very, very normal, I think, until they hit that growth
saying
spurt.
that I would expect me to know shoes. Listen, if they were branded sneakers like you know, Nike, Adidas, Yeezy, Saucony, any of the main brands.
That's my point. Those look like off-brand shoes.
I would know it. I guess our definition of off-brand is different. I don't necessarily know what you mean by saying off-brand. I don't know what that means.
It means not any of the main brands, like the expensive main brands, like Adidas, Nike, like off-brand, like Walmart shoes or Target shoes, or, you know, just off-brand, not like.
Okay.
They look like off-brand sneakers to me.
Okay.
Which is interesting to me, because if he's a missing kid and left without shoes, and somebody has him, buying him quick shoes from Walmart makes sense.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe.
I get that subjective. I'm just saying.
I mean, you know what's interesting though, and this is 100% fact, is the same manufacturer that helps create Yeezys also makes shoes for Walmart. Like, that's the big argument that's out there, why Yeezys are so ridiculous to pay $1,000 for, because it's very similar manufacturing practices is what you're going to find in like Walmart. So
I get that.
The reason why I'm sharing that though is when you look at a shoe just visually without having a picture of the label, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. I have a pair of shoes that is almost identical to that are, you know, $2,000 more than $2,000 pair of shoes. The only difference is the sole is black. Otherwise, they look almost identical.
My point was with if you can look, okay, at the side of the shoe, do you see that right there? That symbol doesn't look like Adidas. It doesn't look like Yeezy. It doesn't look like any of the main brands that I've ever seen. It looks to me like maybe a Skechers, maybe some kind of off brand that I've seen before.
Yeah,
it just doesn't. And I'm not talking about the way the shoe looks, because I agree that knitted look is very in now, and many high-end sneakers look like that. It's the logo that I'm looking at.
Yeah, but how do we know it's a logo?
What do you mean? It looks like one. What else would it be?
It could be a scratch. It could be a scuff.
What? A scuff on knitted shoes that looks white like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nah,
you know how many rocks leave like white marks on dark coloring fabrics?
That's
absolutely.
Light gray shoes.
I think it could absolutely be a label, but I think that there's a very real possibility it could be something else too.
Okay, well.
And look, somebody that I'm having a hard time putting worth in any of this, okay? Because he's looking down.
Okay, that's fine. I just don't.
Because getting into somebody's head, it's not an argument. Getting into somebody's head, I'm not trying to like prove an argument. There's no point to what I'm saying other than giving my opinion.
Because I was gonna get off of it.
But I don't know where I was going now. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure.
But yeah, I mean, I think this is interesting. I'm curious if anything will come of it. Do you think that if this were him, we would know more by now?
No, I don't think it's him.
I'm saying if it was.
Oh, I don't know. No.
Do you think we would know more by now?
Mm-mm. No.
Like, if they had called and they came and talked to this kid and it was him, would we know he was found right now?
When did this come out?
I don't know. I saw it posted, like, this says it was posted 11 hours ago.
No.
Maybe it's been 24
No.
hours. Maybe.
I don't. No. I do not. I think that how fast the information would come out to the general public would be based off what he told the police is the reason for him being gone or missing or whatever.
So apparently these are the same shoes that he was wearing in a picture that was posted of him.
Okay.
People are saying, okay, and
Mhm.
somebody else commented that Chris Proudfoot is adamant it is not Sebastian.
Okay.
That he has commented on it and said it wasn't him. So I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting for sure. Interesting. I think that people should continue to look for Sebastian. The only thing I see here is that this is like a very perfect picture to create a bunch of interest while giving no real evidence. You will never be able to determine anything from this picture. Never. Ever. So I don't know, you guys. I just have a hard time with this one.
Some people are trying to claim this is photoshopped, apparently. And there were other pictures taken of the area to try to prove that it wasn't. Jennifer Coffindaffer posted them on Twitter. There's also people spreading rumors saying this girl in pink looks like somebody photographed in family pictures in the past. I have no idea what the heck is going on with all of those rumors. All I know is that I think that it looks enough like him. The cops should absolutely be looking into it. And if it's not him, then so be it. I mean, you know what I mean? Yeah, and kids do run away. And honestly, after listening to the Web Sleuth thing, okay, the Web Sleuth channel where they had the interview with Seth and Chris, it all started coming together a little bit more for me the more I think about it and why Sebastian would run away.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Learning that he wasn't excited going to his dad's house. He wasn't excited about being at his mom's house. The way Chris talks to people.
Yeah.
The way Seth, clearly there's animosity between them all. Clearly, that hasn't gone away. It's obviously been probably intensified by everything that's going on, of course. But yeah, I can see more why he would run away now. And he's got trauma.
Yeah.
But
yeah, absolutely. I just hope he's found. That's the only thing I'm hoping for, is I just hope that he's found and safe and okay.
I hope he did run away and he's somewhere safe. That's best case scenario, honestly.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a photoshopped image to me.
No, it doesn't look photoshopped to me either.
You can't always tell, but I just don't. That would take a lot of time to do properly, to match the blended areas, because I mean that quality isn't even that good. Like, what kind of camera are they taking a picture
It looks
with,
like a phone. It looks like an Android even, maybe.
Well, I don't. So phones have the best cameras in the market, is what I'm getting at.
Okay.
So it would be hard for the only thing with phones, though, is phones pick a focal point and it causes everything else not to be as clear as that focal point. So and this quality of picture is just a little tough. Could it be an older phone? Yeah, absolutely. But I don't know. I'm not sure. It's a hard one. I just have a really hard time like putting a lot of emphasis into a picture with someone like this. You would never be able to tell. Never.
Right, right. That's a good point.
And I personally can't tell what type of shoes they are. I can't tell anything from that picture. Nothing. Nothing. I wouldn't bet anything on any of that info.
It's an iPhone 14. How do we know it's an iPhone 14? It doesn't say that in the post that I saw. But I mean, I'll go look at the group and see what people are saying about it on the group and stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to bring it up because it was interesting, and it's always, you know, good to bring Sebastian up and get his name out there, because I mean, this is the kind of stuff we need, you know, is tips.
Yeah.
People keeping
absolutely.
an eye out. But I think that's about all we're going to be able to get into tonight, don't you think?
Yeah.
We still haven't been able to get into Cyray or the Gilgo stuff. We have to do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was that many documents that would be such bombshell documents tonight, though.
I know. And they're going to end up being talked about for a couple days, because I'm going to have to chew on it, and I'm going to have to reread it, and I'm going to have to kind of nitpick and dig at some of the documents to, you know, get a more defined opinion on these documents. So, but all right, everybody, that is it for the True Crime Talk Show tonight. We appreciate all of you. And we do have a Discord that is jumping right along here, and it is free. And if you don't know what Discord is, it is a chat room that is private, and you must have this link here that I'm posting. It can also be found in the description in our videos for the whole bunch of people that are on other platforms in other countries. If you go to our description actually, you can go to the description on Twitter, you can go on Instagram, you can go on any of the videos in YouTube, and the invite is in there. The Discord invite is in there, and I will make sure and put it across the information on the screen here too, for future videos, so everyone can find it and get to it really easy. But if you click on that link, that Discord link, it will open you up to Discord, and it'll take you right in there. Just remember, internet safety, you guys. We have people in there that you know, are not there with good faith, and it just like anywhere. I'm not saying that's specific to our area. I just mean on the internet in general, there are people on there that are not good faith. So you're going to find that in ours too. So, you know, just be aware, and it is a place to share ideas and investigations, and continue to learn and grow and Thought Riot together. Just be safe doing it, you guys. But we appreciate all of you, every single one of you. And you can find us on every major podcast platform and social media by searching Thought Riot Podcast, spelt all the way out, except for Twitter. On Twitter, which we have been pretty good about staying active, current, and getting stuff out there. I just posted our Twitter. We are Thought Riot Pod in the link. So if you go to Twitter and search Thought Riot Pod, you will find us. So we appreciate all of you. Thank you guys for being you. Keep doing what you're doing. Make sure you share this show with all your family and your friends. We are, you know, having to deal with some issues right now with people that don't want our content out there, whether they're people that are worried about competition and can't deal with like regular competition, or it is people that are actively working on a case and don't like the information we're sharing. I don't know, but the way around that is you. So keep sharing it. Keep talking about Thought Riot Podcast. Get it out there on your social media. Share it with your family, friends, and anyone in between. And we appreciate you.
Yes. Thank you all for being here tonight, and we'll catch you next time.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. And we will catch you next time.
Later.